Let me first introduce myself. I'm Spoka Zimchi. I'm an employee wellness coordinator. I think most of you know me. Firstly, I want to thank you for tuning in into our first wellness talk in 2022. So, what are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about healthy living. So, I do have a guest speaker that is an expert when it comes to that will be unpacking to us, presenting to us. She's our colleague. She is Christine Kapena. She's a dietitian. She's based here in Cape Town. So you are more than welcome to ask any questions or if you have any concerns. So what is going to happen when she's done with the presenting? We are going to go through your questions and she will answer them. So wherever you are, maybe at the office, maybe at the facility, please take a deep breath in and also deep breath out. Relax, listen attentively, pay attention, focus. And Chrissy will be presenting to us. Over to you, Chrissy.
Thank you, Sipokazi. Thank you, team. Great afternoon, everyone. My name is Christine Kapena. As our fabulous colleague Sipokazi mentioned, I've been with the company for 4 months now. I am in Atlantis, Marmary and Pala region. Thank you so much for your time today to engage and participate in today's knowledge exchange, with our topic being the key to healthy living, as I like to call it, revamp your health. I have categorized it and compartmentalized it to 6 different key components that we'll be looking into today, worth looking into your lifestyle, to invest into yourself, and also to adopt each change, one change at a time. Because change is a lifestyle that you do motivationally, behaviorally, culturally, mindfully, and as well as intentionally. All right. So the great news is that before we go into the healthy lifestyle, what it involves is the great news is that up until 80% of heart diseases and strokes that can occur before the age of 70 can easily be prevented by simply a healthy living lifestyle, and also treating conditions such as diabetes, high blood pressure, and cholesterol. Okay, so the healthy lifestyle involves the following. Number one, maintaining day-to-day stress. Number two, maintaining a healthy weight. Number three, exercising regularly. Number four, eating a healthy diet while balanced. Number five, consuming alcohol sensibly in moderation if you do drink. And number six will be not smoking, or at least putting the intention forward to reducing day by day. All right, so let's look at our first key point, which is managing day-to-day stress. And as we know, stress is linked to a high risk of heart diseases, as we hear so often that stress is a silent killer. So while we can't escape stress because it is inevitable, but managing stress effectively is important for a healthy lifestyle. So often we reach out to stress eating healthy foods and healthy snacks, skipping exercising, and also turning into excessive amount of drinking alcohol, and also turning into smoking so that we can cope with stress. But all these are major risk factors for cardiovascular disease at the end of the day. So I've shared on the screen, as you can see, some tips to help you cope with stress better. So write down your troubles and share them with trusted friends and family. You can practice good time management by planning ahead. So what I like to speak about good time management, because time is a constant, so you need to manage yourself around the time that you have, and also remember that life happens when you're making plans. So planning ahead is a great thing, but also be able to adjust and accommodate, and be kind to yourself. Accept that you can't control everything. Relax about the things you can't change. Prioritize, very important, because only do the things that are most important things, and don't stress about things that you can't control. All right, and also that really doesn't matter. I know it's easier said than done, trust me, but get into it and build new habits. Learn to say no if your to-do list is too long. Give up on bad habits, exercise, meditate, go for a walk, garden, play your favorite music and dance, or go pound it out on the gym. Right, so get enough sleep. So with this, we think for most people, it's between 7 to 8 hours per night. And last but not least, take time to do something you enjoy. Self-care, self-love. You only have this one body. You only have this one life. So take good care of it. I always use the analogy sometimes with my patients is that when you're younger, your body is a Ferrari, and the older you grow, it becomes a vintage car. And as you know, some vintage car are extremely expensive than actually the new modern cars. So you put quality care, quality time, quality resources so that you can take care of the body that you have. All right, so we'll move on to number 2, maintaining a healthy weight. Being overweight or obese puts you at a higher risk for health problems, like for example, type 2 diabetes, heart diseases, degenerative bone disease, fatty liver, gallbladder, high cholesterol, as well as certain types of cancer. And all of these, obesity are caused because due to taking in a lot of calories. So basically ingesting your energy input, your calorie input is way higher than actually the energy being used out into exercise or other activity. So energy in is what you put in, but the energy out, it doesn't actually correlate. So you're taking too much, but you're doing less to basically work it out. So at the end of the day, the westernized lifestyle has actually rendered us a bit more inactive, and also to eat more unhealthy food, especially fast food, processed food, just for convenience. So we need to look into these factors, and this is how you need to tackle this one thing at a time, because it doesn't all happen overnight. So take in one change, master it, and move on. So how do you know you are overweight or obese? Okay, so firstly, weight status can be assessed by different measures, including body mass index, or also as known as BMI, and we also look at the waist circumference. Calculating the BMI, so the formula, it goes as your weight divided by your height squared. Very important, your height squared, not your height times 2. So on the screen, you'll see I've got an example. Your height is 152 centimeters. Our fella, for example, the height is 152 centimeters. So we'll have to convert the centimeters into meters. So you divide by 100, so you get a value of 1.52 meters, and then you take that value times itself. So 1.52 times 1.52 to get to a value of meters squared. Very important, remember, it's your height times height itself, not your height times 2. So once you get that value, and let's say, for example, our fella is 60 kilograms, 60 kilograms divided by the height squared, we get a value of 25.96. So after that, then we go to identify which category does this person fall under based on their BMI, because BMI has different classification according to the WHO. And the classification is on the right hand side of my screen. So you'll see that if a patient, or if someone is it's got a BMI of under 18.5, it is considered as underweight or malnourished. If a person has got a BMI between 18.5 and 24.9, it's considered as normal. So as for example, so you'll see that, and we move over, if your BMI is from 25 to 29.9, you are considered as overweight. As an example, we'll classify basically our person here to be on the overweight category. Then if you move over to your BMI is between 30 and 34.9, then you are classified as obese. And if your BMI is above 35, it's classified as extremely obese. All right, so before I move on to the waist circumference, I just need to mention something very important as well. Some people, for example, bodybuilders, many have high BMI scores, but very little body fat. So for these people, a waist circumference measurement and skin full thickness is also a more direct method of measuring this. Okay, so your waist circumference is the measurement of your natural waist just above the belly button. And you can use this method to check if you are losing weight, losing centimeters, but also to determine a disease risk. So the waist circumference of above 80 centimeters for women and above 94 centimeters for men indicates increased risk of disease of the lifestyle. All right. So tips for weight loss. You need to set a reasonable goal and realistic goal for weight loss and see a registered dietitian if you need more help. Eat slowly and enjoy your food. There's no rush. Eat less by reducing your portion sizes and use smaller plates. These are a few tricks that can actually aid you into putting realistic goals. Avoid eating when you're not hungry, stress eating, and eating out of boredom and frustration. Stick to 3 balanced meals a day, no skipping meals, and have healthy snacks in between. So eat smaller meals more frequently. So you give your body, your engine, something to do consistently, and that's also how you activate your metabolism. And also, for example, have fruits or veggie sticks in between if you're really hungry. Drink lots of water. The recommendation is between 2 to 3 liters. And if you are not in the habit of drinking water, that's okay. And you can start. This is the best time to start. And increment, start small and build it up. So if you never used to drink even 2 glasses, now set yourself a realistic goal. Like this week, I'm going to start attempting every day to at least have 2 glasses. Another trick is if you toss urine, put it back in. So if you toss urine, put it back, rehydrate yourself back with the water, or keep a water bottle on your side. Constantly remind you that you need to drink water, or even after each meal, have a glass of water. So these are just a few tricks to help yourself and how to go about, adopting a new lifestyle. Make sure that your starchy foods are high in fiber, also are in whole grain. Choose lower fat food, preferably fat-free dairy or daily, to help you reduce your energy intake. So with this is that, so we look at the cumulative total amount of fat per day that gives you the energy content that you eat. So if, for example, you have milk in your coffee, you have spreads into your sandwiches, you're gonna cook with fats, you're gonna have nuts, good fats like avo. So all of that, we tally that at the end of the day, it gives you a certain amount of energy. But if you can cut out unnecessary fat, so you reduce automatically those amounts of fat that you would have taken in and boosted your energy content for the day. So it's all about that cumulative content at the end of the day. Okay, so cooking, you need to cook using lower fats methods. Variety is the spice of life. So bake, boil, steam, grill. So we've got such a variety. So let's avoid using unnecessary oils, especially in our preparation methods, and fast foods as well, which got a high content of fats as we know it. So it's very important as well. So it's a balanced lifestyle. So energy in goes hand in hand with energy out, which is your physical activity. So if you eat, you give yourself the energy, but working out works out all that energy as well. So it's very important to increase your physical level activity accordingly. About physical activity, so as you can see on the screen, there's various methods of actually keeping active, and that's what we're going to discuss a little bit more during this section. So lack and irregular physical activity is a risk factor for many diseases, including high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, degenerative bone diseases. The list goes on, and especially cardiovascular disease. So in comparison to those who have at least a moderate or exercises regularly or a moderate lifestyle, then in comparison to inactive people actually has a double risk of contracting heart attacks and even stroke. And also, once having stroke, you've got a risk of dying almost immediately in comparison to somebody that is moderately active. So the good news is, there's good news to this. So if you regularly exercise, you give yourself the most profound long-term health benefits at the end of the day. So keep that beat, okay? Movement is everything. So keep your heart going, keep your heart rates elevated, and it really doesn't take much to elevate your heart rate. So your heart rate of someone who exercises regularly beats between 45 to 50 times per minute, and the heartbeat of someone who doesn't exercise frequently beats around 70 to 75 times per minute. Okay, so what are the benefits of regular exercise? It reduces the risk of heart disease and stroke. It improves good cholesterol. It helps lower high blood pressure. It helps reduce and control body weight. It helps control blood glucose level and reduces the risk of developing diabetes. It helps to manage stress and release tension. So great for your mental space. And it prevents chronic illnesses, diseases associated with aging. So it also reduces the risk of bowel and breast cancer. It reduces the risk of developing osteoporosis, and also smokers who exercise are twice as successful in attempts to quit. So frequently asked questions regarding exercise. So I've compiled a couple of questions that people often ask frequently so that we can maybe engage and expand in this a bit more. So question number one, if I exercise, will it prevent heart disease? Physical inactivity is a major risk factor for heart disease. The risk of cardiovascular disease or its risk factors is lowered with increased physical activity. So yes, should I see a doctor before I start becoming physically active? If you're a middle-aged man or you are older, and you are inactive, you're at risk of a heart disease, or you already have a condition, a medical condition, which is a risk factor, then you should seek medical help first before you start exercising or increasingly, like significantly increasing your physical activity. So for most people of any age can safely engage in moderate physical activity levels and also moderate walking, gardening, house chores, so when you're doing your house chores, put a little bit of gees to it, put a little bit of vuma to it, and that's all counts at the end of the day. Okay, so if anything that's actually just elevates your heart rate. So if any ideal body weight, also if you're losing weight, you are working towards getting into your ideal body weight and also not smoking as well. All right, so how much physical activity is enough? So which is the next question. So if you're inactive, you are doing basically anything. So if you're inactive, rather, and doing anything is better than nothing at the end of the day. So studies show that those who have a low fitness level are much likely to die a bit early compared to people who achieve at least a moderate level of physical activity. Okay, so anything is better than nothing. Does exercise counteract the harmful effects of other risk factors? Exercise lowers your blood pressure and high blood cholesterol. However, you can't be smoking and eating unhealthy foods and also expecting that physical activity will basically work off the damage already caused. No, exercise should actually be done part of a healthy lifestyle. So it includes a healthy balanced diet, a healthy balanced lifestyle, moderate alcohol intake if you do take any, and also ideal body weight and not smoking. Is it too late for a senior citizen to become physically active? The older you are, the more it's really important that you need to have regular exercises. However, it's important to take some special precautions when it comes to that. So if you have any family history of heart diseases, consult your doctor before you can start engaging in an exercise program. And also don't try too much too fast. Take it easy, start small, and gradually increase with your pace, work with your body, because the aim is to work with your body, not break it. And also exercise at the intensity level that is appropriate to you. Okay, which type of exercise work best? Any type of physical activity is good. Walking, dancing. So I'm just going to go back to our previous slides that you can see. So walking, dancing, cycling, house chores, any similar activity is great for you. So can all contribute to the well-being and your general fitness at the end of the day. Right, so how much exercise do I need? We need to aim for, I'll go back to our screen again. So you need to aim for about the minimum level of 30 minutes 5 times a week, or 45 minutes 3 times a week. As well as if you're doing vigorous and intensive exercise, look at 75 minutes of that vigorous activity per week. But also you don't have to do all your 30 minutes in one go. Okay, you can split your 30 minutes into 10 minutes bouts. So when I'm talking about 10 minutes of intense house chores, 10 minutes of taking the stairs, 10 minutes of dancing, then you've accomplished that. So you can break it down and let it fit part of your lifestyle. Okay, all right. And now one of our final question is, how hard should I exercise? Start slowly and regularly increase your pace at a level that makes you sweat. Okay, here's a key factor. The way to monitor if you are doing the correct exercise, the correct intensity for you, is to do a talk test. So when you're exercising, you should still be able to have a conversation with the person next to you. You can be slightly panting, but not completely out of breath that you feel like you can't even pronounce the word. So use a talk test to measure like your heart rate is elevated accordingly. Okay, so another thing I just want to highlight before we go through this. Remember, moderation is key. Start small and increase as you go. Right. right. So our fourth component is eating well. What does it comprise of? So we're looking in front of you, you're looking at a healthy plate model. So a healthy plate model, basically, it gives you an indication of how to proportionize your plate so that you can actually have a bit of everything according to the food group, and also give you the nutrition you need in a balanced manner. All right, so ideally, your diet should comprise basically your first size. Your first size on a plate is basically your portion size for your starch, the palm of your hands. So let's take our plates. Before I even carry on, let's take our plates, visually divide the plates in half, and the one half divide into 2/4. So that's how you proportionize your plates. So your quarter of your plate, your first size is your starch portion size. Your palm of your hand, which is the other quarter, is your protein, with things like beans, lentils, chicken, eggs. So all your meaty, all your fish, all your legumes falls part of your protein content, and half of your plate, which we say 2 hands full, is literally your fruit and your vegetable. So that's how you proportionize your plate to ensure that you're having a balanced meal, and this is the ideal way to go about it. Let's say, for example, for lunch you will have 2 slices of brown bread, which is your starch, and you have some leftover chicken from supper, or fish from supper. Then include things like lettuce, cucumber, tomato. So you're having a holistic meal instead of having only certain part of the food group. So the key is balance and adding in wherever you can. All right. Okay, so fighting your bad fats, so which is also another key factor part of eating well. So you need to eat more poultry during your week, as well as your fish, but your poultry need to be skinless. So even if you buy chicken with the skin on, please ensure you remove the skin before cooking. Often I get this during consultation that, yes, I don't eat the skin, I cook it, but I remove it. But at the end of the day, remember, fat melts and it goes into it, so it becomes a bit too late. So make sure that you remove the chicken skin before preparation, not during, not after. Okay, so having a basically intake of red meat maximum 2 to 3 times a week, having more fish, having more chicken, having more legumes, is how we're fighting bad fats. So buy lean meats or mince, trim off the visible fat that you see on the piece of meat, or on anything that you, or any of the protein that you have before you start cooking. Very important. Cut down on the full cream dairy products. Use low fat, use fat free. Instead, replace butter or ghee or lard, as well as like hard brick margarine, with rather softer margarine, which are plant oils. It's derived from plant oils. Your hard brick margarine and anything, those hard fats are saturated fats, which really gets stored into your body and causes cardiovascular diseases, obesity, and the list is long. Okay, so use non-stick pans or cooking sprays for grilling and stir frying, and also grill, steam, boil, pan fry with very little oil or even nothing. Poach your foods as well, instead of rather going through frying and deep frying continuously. Okay, so just some beautiful guidelines regarding a healthy diet, and you'll see we've covered it in different segments. Every component has an impact to the next, and they all work together into actually achieving this beautiful balanced lifestyle. So guidelines as follow: eat a healthy balanced diet, include a variety of food, as I've actually discussed in the plate model. Eat smaller meals more regularly. Remember, 3 meals, your snacks in between, smaller meals more frequently. Make starchy food, especially those rich in fiber, whole grains, part of most of your meals. Include at least 5 servings of vegetable and fruit. So we say strive for 5. So 3 vegetables, 2 fruit in your day, you're good to go. Include fish as part of your diet at least twice a week. So good examples are snook, sardines, tuna, pilchards, mackerel, and salmon. Limit the intake of red meat to at least 2 to 3 times per week, and regularly include legumes like beans, your lentils, your soya as alternative to meat. So throw some lentils into your rice. It actually does a lot of goodness to the GI content of your rice, for example. Those are just a few tricks that one can do to improve your lifestyle. So it eats fat sparingly, limits the bad fat as we discussed, such as your hard butters, your fatty meats. Include more of your good fats in your diet, such as vegetable oil, canola oil, olive oil, softer margarine. Avocado is a good fat, nuts, peanut butter, and seeds. Limit the intake of foods high in cholesterol like organ meats, especially if you suffer from cholesterol or just to on the preventative methods. So limit the intake of that. So you can eat it once in a while, but this shouldn't be a high frequency in large amounts because of the cholesterol content, like your organ meats, your calamari, and your seafood. Have at least 2 servings of low-fat or fat-free milk or dairy product every day. Use salts very sparingly. It should be limited to at least 1 teaspoon or 5 grams. Remember that processed food and a lot of things like Viennas, polognies, sausages, salty snacks such as chips and takeaways contains high amounts of hidden fats, high amounts also of hidden salts. So be very cautious, eat those sparingly and in moderation. Make better choices of fast food. Choose grilled rather options. There are a lot of fast food joints that actually accommodate with grilling. Make those options instead regularly instead of having these hidden salts and hidden fats. If you drink alcohol, drink it in moderation and drink lots of water every day. Okay, so we're moving on to the fifth component, which is alcohol intake. If you drink alcohol, do so in moderation, so because drinking too much alcohol increases blood pressure and also causes level of triglyceride, which is your bad fats that we are fighting. And it may also contribute to the development of obesity. It contributes to diabetes, liver disease, and also sudden cardiac death. But if you consume alcohol, 2 drinks per day, which is the recommendation for men, and 1 drink per day for women, preferably with meals. Okay, so 1 drink is equating to 125 ml glass of wine or 340 ml beer or a shot or 25 ml of spirits or liqueur. Moving on to one of our final components, our 6th components, is smoking, which literally triples the amount of risk of heart diseases. At the end of the day, it narrows your blood vessels and expands blood clots, causing the cardiovascular equivalent to a traffic jam on the way to your heart, to your brain. So it reduces basically blood flow to your heart, which causes a risk of a heart attack, and if it reduces blood flow to your brain, which is also a risk factor for a stroke. So smoking causes heart and blood vessels diseases by increasing blood pressure, increasing blood clotting, and increasing carbon monoxide levels and reducing oxygen levels. Because when it comes to your body accepting oxygen or carbon monoxide, it's going to choose carbon monoxide first. It's like the fumes of an exhaust, a smoking building, because it's a single component versus oxygen is basically a double component. So it will prefer that, if it prefers that first, which is not the healthiest method, automatically it's going to actually increase its risk factors. That concludes my preaching for today, and the takeaway for today is basically healthy lifestyle, balance, and at the end of the day, remember, adopt 1 change at a time because it doesn't have to happen overnight. Thank you so much for your time.
Christine, there are a number of questions. I know we're running out of time. Maybe you want to select a couple and we can answer the rest later.
That's great. That's great. Let me just go to my Q&A. So I'm just taking a moment to filter through some questions. I might not be able to go through all of them, but I will definitely answer all of them a bit later. So just give me a moment to read through the questions. I'm having some challenge scrolling up. It is healthy to adopt an healthy eating plan that excludes most food and eating, for example, apple diets, whereby you eat apples only, you reach your goal weight. So I would say the variety, and also it depends. It's really case specific. I wouldn't specifically put somebody on an apple diet for a long period of time. It depends on if the patient had the procedure, if there's a certain condition, and it's, if anything, it's only temporary for a reason. So it's an individualized approach. So there's no one size fits all approach to this at the end of the day, because every human being is different, is complex, and it literally requires an individualized, tailored approach. So I wouldn't say to actually exclude everything without basically having a different substitute, because you do get people who are fruitarians, for example. So there are a lot of conditions. So you just need a special consultation to work through it, to see how we can actually still, at the end of the day, find ways, plant-based methods to increase basically and also give the person the nutritional requirement that they need. So I wouldn't say to adopt exclusively. It could be temporarily, but those are some things that you need to actually see consult a dietitian before making that decision. I'll answer the second question as well. I enjoy the white fat in my meat. If you advise we cut it out, what healthy fat can I replace it with? So if you look at your preparation method already, so how are you making that meat? Are you grilling it? Are you putting a little bit of spray and cook? Are you drizzling a little bit of olive oil to it or canola oil to it? So those are good fats that you can actually replace it with, because the white fat in your meat that you enjoy so much, which is understandable because fat gives that nice taste factor to food, but it's not a nice factor to your arteries. It's not a nice factor to your body overall, because your body can't break it down. So it gets stored in things like your arteries, it gets stored in your abdomen and causes obesity. So rather replace it with healthier fats, for example, nuts, for example, peanut butter, for example, seeds as well. And like I said, if you're cooking, drizzle a little bit of oil, canola oil or olive oil to it. And I think I'm going to answer one final question if I can reach to it, because I'm having some trouble scrolling down.
What about this one? What advice can you give with regards to salt intake?
Yeah, so regarding salt intake, it's very important, like as I mentioned in my previous slide. So the intake is literally a teaspoon, which is 5 grams for the whole day. And also be careful of hidden fats in your takeaways, inserted processed foods. So your polony contains a lot of salt. So if, for example, you are eating at a dinner table, food is already prepared, don't add extra salts to it. So that's also another way to ensure that you are not eating a lot of salts into your intake. So the recommendation is a teaspoon for the day.
Are there healthy salt alternatives? You've heard of health salts and things like that. Are there any kind of alternatives?
So things like Himalayan salt and pink salt, all the different type of salts. At the end of the day, salt is still salt, so we still need to use it in moderation. So instead of to cut down on the salt, so let's say, for example, you're using chicken spice, barbecue spice, it contains a lot of salt. It's the same thing. So rather use things like your herbs, your dried herbs, lemon. So squeeze lemon onto your meals or into your food. Use things like herbs, fresh or dried. That's okay. And to basically freshen up, but also give flavor to your food, so you don't end up using salty basically spices. And don't add salt when you use cubes into your meals. Don't add more salt if you use barbecue or chicken spice. Things like masala spice are not salty, so that you can use on your food to flavor. So aromatics, ginger, garlic, those are all things you can use to flavor your food. And also it's an acquired taste, so you can train your body to actually get used to flavoring. So if you flavor your food using other things, then you don't have to use a lot of salt.
Great.
So yeah.
Thank you so much, Christine.
Thank you very much.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And we thoroughly enjoyed the presentation. And for those that haven't been able to attend, we will make this freely available to everyone. Just again, thank you so much for your time.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.